Hello. Before watching the video, I'd appreciate if you went and followed my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/stevis5. The link is in the comments, so make sure to just go and give me a follow. Also, I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Enjoy! So in game 4, I had the black pieces again. So let's flip the board. So in game 4, I had the black pieces again. My opponent played 1e4, and generally I play d5, the Scandinavian, but in this game I decided I might as well mix it up and play the Sicilian. Now the Sicilian is a very common opening, not one that I actually play very much, just occasionally, and I know a little theory, and in this game I decided, why not? I'm playing a Grandmaster, and I might as well try to play a fun, possibly more attacking game, because the Sicilian can generate those types of positions. So my opponent plays knight f3, I play d6, d4, classic move, just creating the open Sicilian. And here my opponent takes with the queen. Now, commonly, white just takes with the knight, plays knight f3, and gets their pieces out. So, in this case, my opponent takes with the queen, and I suspected this is probably a system that they like to play, given that they're a Grandmaster, and they likely know a lot of theory. They may know about this system as a way to avoid the main line. So I just played knight c6, developing, attacking the queen. Makes sense. My opponent plays bishop b5 to pin. I play bishop d7 to unpin. Takes, knight c3, knight f6, just continuing to develop. Bishop g5. And here I play e6, trying to develop the bishop. Maybe this was a slightly questionable move because my opponent can strike in the center here with a move like e5, and my pieces are a little misplaced. It's possible that the plan I should have gone for here is to play g6. I just felt that this was ugly after bishop f6, ef6, and my d6 pawn is very weak. So in the game I played e6, my opponent castled queenside, makes sense, just putting more pressure. I played the move h6, my opponent retreated the bishop, I played bishop e7, my opponent plays queen d3, I play queen c7, just preparing to castle queenside, knight d4, a6, stopping knight b5, f4, and here I play the move g5. And I kind of like this move. I think it's very thematic, because the idea is that when my opponent takes, I'm just going to move the knight and pin here. And this kind of relieves some of the pressure, because if my opponent moves the bishop away, then I'll just take on f4, and this is somewhat problematic for now. If my opponent plays bishop g3, I can take on f4. Now, if my opponent takes back, this may look like a fork, but my opponent has the move knight c6. So here, I may just castle, and what I've gotten out of this position is more pressure on the e4 pawn. I don't have to worry about f4 to f5, really just breaking apart my pawn structure. And I think black has a pretty solid position here. So in the game, my opponent takes on g5, and I play the move knight g4, basically just bringing the knight to e5 with tempo. Now, I could have also played the move knight d7, that serves the same purpose. And my opponent takes on c6, I take back. Note that they can't ever take on h6 because of the pin. So my opponent plays queen e2, I put the knight on e5 as planned, bishop g3, and now I grab the pawn with check. king b1, and I play the move knight c4, just putting more pressure on the king. I want to go for moves like b5, b4, and just really attack. And my opponent plays the move rook d4, attacking my knight. So I play rook c8, just putting more pressure and threatening to take on b2, and after takes, queen takes c3. And in the game, my opponent played rook hd1, which just blunders this idea. So after takes, I play queen c3, and here I've only won a pawn, but my position's completely winning because I can simply go for a rook lift here. I can play the move rook c5 and threaten rook b5 check. And this is just completely crushing. My opponent has nothing that they can do to stop this simple plan. Just winning on the spot. So, in the game, my opponent played rook takes d6 to try to create mayhem. I simply took on c3 with the idea that I'm just going to play knight c4 or knight a4 and threaten mate next. My opponent takes on e6. And this is an interesting effort to create counterplay. Here I could have taken. I thought that this is maybe giving my opponent unnecessary chances to create counterplay with queen h5. So I just moved the king out of the way, and now my opponent has no checks except bishop d6, and I just play king g8. So no risk, no issues for me. My opponent played rook f1 here, just pinning the pawn so that I can't take the rook, and I played knight c4, threatening checkmate on b2, and in this position, my opponent resigned, making the score 4-0 in my favor, and at this point, my opponent stopped playing. I just wanted to show you these games because I thought they were very interesting and represent the ways in which you can play dynamically to beat a grandmaster in chess. Thanks for watching. Bye.